Hi friends, Jackie Eicher here with a message for children of all ages, and I'm coming to you from Corvallis, Oregon, and this is First Congregational United Church of Christ, and Pearl, my dog, is in the background taking a good snooze. It's a wintry, well, it feels wintry. It's chillier today than it has been, and it's cloudy, but Pearl and I took a good walk at the park before coming back to do this. I am wanting to check in the way we usually do, which is touching our heads to recognize what what thoughts am I bringing right now? What thoughts have I recently been thinking before starting this video? My head is always a swirl of thoughts, and it's very hard for me to pin them down. Easier for me is to pin down my feelings. I don't know if that's true for you. It might be the opposite of what's true for you, but let's recognize what feelings we each have, both emotions and physical feelings. I feel just the right temperature. I hope you do too. And now touch our bellies to recognize what needs we might have based on our feelings and thoughts. If I was cold, for instance, I might need a blanket. I might feel like I need a blanket. And the last step in this 4-step process is to open our hands and make a request based on our needs. Is there something that you would like to ask for right now? I don't need a blanket. I don't need a drink of water. I have that. I think I'm a little tired, so I think I need a nap after this, but not right now. I would like to show you something I've been making before I found you here, and I wonder if you know what this is. It's a model of a crown, and the crown is something you might put in a protected place when you're not wearing it. If you're a king or a queen or a princess or a prince, you might put it somewhere safe, like a treasury. A treasury is where you put treasures. And in Jesus' time, there were temples that had treasuries, and people were expected to put coins in the treasury on special days. And in Jesus' time, the treasury box was metal. And so if someone put in 1 coin, everyone knew that 1 coin was put in. If someone put in 100 coins, everyone knew that person had put in 100 coins. So it was really clear in the culture of the time and recognized that the one who put in the most coins must be the most important. And that was the thought. I'm going to read to you a story about Jesus and what he said about that. This is from Mark 12, verses 41 through 44. It's very short. And Mark would have been one of the friends that Jesus was talking to at this time. Jesus sat down across from the treasury and watched the crowd putting money into the treasury. Many rich people put in a lot of coins. And then a poor woman came in and put in 2 small copper coins, which are worth a penny. Then Jesus called his friends and said to them, I tell you this poor widow has put in more than all of those who are giving to the treasury. For all of those people contributed coins out of their abundance of coins. But this poor woman, out of her poverty, she's put everything that she had to live on in the treasury. She gave it away. What did you notice when you heard this story just now? And maybe you've heard it before. I noticed that Jesus put himself in a place where he could watch all the people putting coins in the treasury box. And he said the opposite of what the thinking was at the time. He said the one who gave the most was the one who only put the 2 coins worth a penny in. And it had to do with her generosity. People who have a lot and give a lot are also generous. But as it turns out, Jesus said, the one who gave everything and trusted God to provide, that's my own interpretation, is the one who gave the most and was most generous. Generosity is something we all can practice. And I wonder if you see ways that people are generous around you at school. And I wonder if there are ways you can think of that you can be generous with others around you. James and Kate and I talked this morning at Sunday school, and they had the idea of being generous at school by saying kind things to people in their class. And they talked about filling their bucket, which is an invisible bucket, and it can be full when people are kind to you. It can also be empty if people are not kind. So that's one way they're going to think about being generous this week. They also said maybe sweeping the floor would be another way they could be generous at home, generous with their time. For most of history, and in Jesus' time, and even all the way through to today, that's more than 2,000 years, women didn't have and don't have as easy a time of earning money as men. So in the story, this poor widow is who she was, a poor woman who her husband died. She would have had a difficult time earning enough money to take care of herself. But the scripture tells us that the woman was generous, even though she had a hard time earning money. The Bible story reminds us to take care of those who need our help, especially people who don't have others to care for them. Jesus tells us to love our neighbor as much as we love ourselves, and everyone is our neighbor in the family of God. You might think of other Bible stories you've heard or other stories about generosity. And I hope that you know a lot of them. If you don't, I can share some with you. I wonder, this is something that James and Kate and I talked about today. Before I give us an activity here, I want to tell you that our pastor, Jen, wrote recently an article that went into the newspaper about being generous to people in our community, our neighbors who don't have homes, who don't have shelter. And it's coming to be a wet and cold time. So our pastor is asking the city, how are you going to help? And that is an act of generosity to ask that question and to be clear that there are people who need our help. What are we going to do to help them? So here's our assignment for today. And I'll show you what James and Kate and I did, but think about if you could help those neighbors in our community that don't have food or shelter. If you could build a robot to help with that situation, what would it look like? And James and Kate right away said it would have a square head. So I'll make the square head. And it would have a kind of round body. You can't see it very well. Maybe that will help. A kind of round body. And then it would have wheels on the bottom. And then there would be a button on the top of the head, which they said kind of looked like a hat. And then when we talked, we decided it might have buttons or a menu on the front of its body. And then it would need some arms to deliver the food, they thought. So I will give it arms. And on their menu, on the robot, we had pizza, hamburger, cheeseburger, delicious salad, fruit, oranges, all kinds of good things. And then they also brought up that when they went to preschool, they always saw the OSU robot delivering food. So this is not a story that could never happen, actually. I think that's interesting. We asked the question, what would happen if this robot could deliver food to all the people that don't have enough food? What would happen if everyone had enough food? And we didn't really come to an answer, but I think James and Kate were having a hard time thinking about that. What would happen if everyone had enough food to eat? We did say that perhaps people would be able to think about other things and not about how they were going to get enough food to eat. James and Kate named our robot Row, and they said he needed arms because he would need some oars since he has to row to get around. They're very clever, James and Kate. So I'll put Row aside, and I'll tell you what our assignment is for the week. And that is anytime you touch money, or if you're James and Kate and have like James and Kate and have a piggy bank, you could give your piggy bank a little shake and say, how can I be generous this week? Generous doesn't mean giving away your money. Although, I mean, it can, but it can be giving away your time, giving away your good thoughts towards something or someone. It can be generous. You can be generous by giving a hug to someone or sending a note to someone. I always love notes. So if you want to send a note in the mail, I would be so happy to receive that. And it would mean so much to me that you took time out to send me a note. So as a closure here, we're going to put hands on our hearts. Take a deep breath. I am a beloved child of God. I am breathing in God's love. Thank you, friends, for being here. And I will see you next week.